Another bad day in office for Manchester United as we are beaten at home not only by our arch rivals Manchester City, but by a team that has been largely average all throughout the season. But didn't they have their most comfortable victory at Old Trafford, the theatre of dreams, on a day we are sending off Sir Bobby Charlton? Guys, this speaks to the problems we have at this club. On the hot spot tonight, I'm here to brutally talk about the facts about our boss Erik Ten Hag and his lack of tactics that I believe is partly and hugely the reason why we lost very shamefully against the neighbors in blue and gave them reason to go ahead and make more noise about us. Subscribe to the hotspot and let me know how you saw the game. In your view, what went wrong for Manchester United? To be honest, Manchester City beating us, regardless being at home, is not exactly in these days going to be that bit of a shock, but the manner in which we lost for me is what I'm here to comment about. Now, Erik Ten Hag clearly has failed to handle the players he's got. I think, whereas, and I'll get to the players, they have got to take initiative, they have got to take things in their own hands at times, they have got to show effort and desire. I think the manager as well is not doing them so well. Let's first talk about the game in general. So we lose 3-0 at home to a Manchester City that, for me, if you ask me, has not been looking good, has not been playing their best game. In fact, I think this has been their most comfortable victory. But if they were able to pull this, look at that. That's the attack momentum. Up in green is Manchester United, and down in blue is Manchester City. But look at the blue bars there, and the momentum with which Manchester City was attacking. They dominated this game in all facets of the game. It's shocking and painful that I think our man of the match, without a doubt, was Andrew Onana. Perhaps if he had not been on his good a day, we could have considered 6 goals or five. But look at that. There were no patterns at all. We are playing with no patterns at all. We are clueless. We don't have an idea of how we want to get a goal. We are just all over the place. Players are individually off, totally off. I think with the exception of Rasmus Højlund, who tried a bit. Again, as always, we say the same thing about him. He comes and keeps trying, but let down by the people around him and the manager, pulling him off at a time when you're chasing a game. He did the same thing against Arsenal. Even this time again, he does the same thing. He's pulled off by the fans because no one can understand you pulling off Rasmus Højlund when you want goals to bring on Reguilon and whoever. Even forget the other player he brought on. He brought on. So I think for me, there is a lot to talk about the tactics of Erik Ten Hag, and I'm going to get into them in more detail. But this is the general view of the whole situation now Manchester United is in. So we've played 10 games. We've got a paltry 15 points. We are lying 8th on the pile. Man City, who have beaten us, have 3rd on the pile. They have got 24 points to their credit. But look at the teams above us. Arsenal 24, Spurs on top 26. But Brighton has got 17 points. Newcastle has got 17. Aston Villa has got 22. And Liverpool have got 23. These are the teams ahead of us that we are trying to compete with. But look at how they are performing, the games they play, how they win games. And clearly, you can see it doesn't take a genius to see that we are way off the pace as Manchester United. But why exactly? For me, it's because of this man, Erik Ten Hag. Look at the team he started with. Look at this. So you have Onana, obviously should have started in goal. I do not understand why on earth you've got Reguilon on the bench. He has been playing good in that left back. We don't know of him being injured at all. He actually brought him on later. I don't know why you want a goal and bring on Reguilon. I didn't get it. Why didn't he start? What business did Ten Hag have to do starting Lindelof on the left? I don't remember Lindelof ever playing on the left. What business did he have starting Lindelof on the left? Tinkerman, just trying out things here and there. You don't experiment against a big team like this. You don't experiment in such a manner against Manchester City. Then Evans starting ahead of Rafael Varane. I'm not sure why that was so. Maybe Varane is not fully fit. But even then, why didn't he play Lindelof as a central defender with Harry Maguire and then play Sergio Reguilon on the left? I didn't get that. Diogo Dalot starts on the right. Then Eriksen shielding again in his usual 4-2-3-1 formation. Nothing changing, no adjustment to the way he approaches it. Plays a 4-2-3-1. Christian Eriksen alongside Amrabat. Amrabat has clearly flopped at Manchester United. He has failed to find his feet. He's not playing football. I don't know. We can't say it's early days for him. I think he should be showing a bit of promise. But clearly in the first half, he was clueless. No wonder he had to be pulled off. I would have brought in Kobe Maino. Never mind him not being probably 100% fit. But what are the 100% fit players doing? Nothing. Then Christian Eriksen was there playing deep. Scott McTominay tried out as a number 10. Maybe what McTominay has is the instinct that even when he has had a bad game, he seems to have the goal scoring instinct that you saw the two chances we had in the first minutes of the game, and one shot that was, I think, dealt with well by Ederson were from Scott McTominay. But clearly not because he's so good, but because I think he probably has the goal scoring instinct. Maybe now we might need that. We might rely on that. But then push Bruno Fernandes on the right. I don't get Fernandes. Fernandes playing off the right is as good as him not being there at all. He's completely lost in the game. Owen Hargreaves, the co-commentator, kept saying it, that put Bruno Fernandes as a number 10, because that's where he will try to give you his best. Erik Ten Hag failed to see that. Marcus Rashford had no business playing even 30 minutes of the game. In the first 20 minutes, you could see clearly that he's off the pace. He had the least touches on the ball, I think, in the first half. I was just texting, asking, has Marcus Rashford touched the ball for a minute? He was all over the place. He had no idea, just running and doing nothing. Rasmus Højlund, as always, will make the right runs, have an effort. He had a chance on goal, but perhaps a bad first touch. Also, him being trying to be so mature, there is a point when he should have gone down to get us a penalty, but he chose to stay up and failed to get the ball because he had a poor first touch, and somehow John Stones had pushed him off the goal's way. But for me, by and large, the performance of Manchester United, both from the manager to the individuals, is terrible. Erik Ten Hag has failed to get, and there's no excuses now about players being injured and all, because most of our players were actually available in the squad. There were the exception of Casemiro, who has not been there for a few games, but also Casemiro is way off his best. So he's not a player we should be crying about. My feeling is that Erik Ten Hag is praying for players to be fit, but when they are fit, he has struggled to select them. And for me, that is a sheer lack of tactics. Tell me why on earth Marcus Rashford is playing a full 90 minutes in that game when he has done completely nothing. What business does he have playing even 50 minutes, even 40 minutes of that game? Rashford should have been off long time ago. He brings on a Scott McTominay in a number 10. It's not working, but he doesn't have the audacity to say, let me switch things up and perhaps put McTominay in a different position. Well, he pulled him to a number 6, but then it was maybe not a solution, because what we needed is a player who's going to come and create chances. So McTominay has failed to do that. You don't put off Amrabat and put McTominay as a number 6 when you want goals. It doesn't make sense. First of all, it became even easier for Manchester City to just run through our midfield. I think it was clear. So you try to make sense of what Erik Ten Hag was doing, then putting off Rasmus Højlund when you want goals, bring on Sergio Reguilon, then you brought on Garnacho too late. I mean, you struggle to understand what Erik Ten Hag is thinking when he's making some of his decisions, and a few of them have worked. We saw it work, I think, when he brought on Christian Eriksen at halftime. Should have been for Sofian Amrabat in our Champions League game against Copenhagen, and we saw a turnaround in things. But you can't be just gambling and hoping to get results against teams like Manchester City. You can't. They were so comfortable, and yet what is painful for me is that Manchester City have not even been good this season. This should be the most beatable Man City lot, but for some reason we suffer the worst loss at Old Trafford in so many years. Fifth time Pep Guardiola is winning a game at Old Trafford. Man United losing for the fifth time this season. The fifth time we are losing to Manchester City in six meetings. I mean, we have clearly lost it. We are way off the pace, and with all the problems we've got, and we've got so many problems starting from the top with the Glazers, players, the individuals, of course, not taking initiative. But for me, I think it is high time Erik Ten Hag has got to be criticized for his decisions, because he's a tinkerman. He makes football look so difficult. Someone said it, a colleague of mine said it before, and I agree with it. Erik Ten Hag makes football look so difficult even when he should be doing the basics. Even when he should be doing the basic things, Ten Hag is tinkering and trying to do What is Lindelof playing in the left back against Manchester City? I don't get it. Kyle Walker was always at the end of balls ahead of him because Lindelof has never played the left back position. Why on earth, when you've got Sergio Julian on the bench? Okay, you've played. If there was an issue with the Julian, which I don't think was there, okay, Amrabat has played on the left before. At least play Amrabat, or rather, play back three if you have to, or play Diogo Dalot there because he has played there before. I don't understand it. So the lack of tactics by Erik Ten Hag is actually making Man United look worse than it is. And for me, this is a huge problem that we've got to address as early as yesterday. You look at Manchester United, game in and game out, and clearly there is no improvement in anything. And Ten Hag will have the audacity to come out of to the media and talk about how we are improving in certain things, that how we have the best ball recoveries. What on earth is that? You're a Manchester United manager, and you're talking about your team being the best in ball recoveries, and you're saying we are in the right direction. What direction is that? Is that the direction we want to go into as Man United? Ball recoveries? Is that how we are rated now? Is that how far we've fallen? That we are now looking at positives in ball recoveries. We can't put patterns together to try and get a goal. I wonder what these guys do in training. You don't see patterns being built. You don't see what these guys are doing. They're just making Andrew Nana look so bad. Yes, he has made mistakes, but trust me, Erik Ten Hag and his approach to football, his tinkering and his lack of tactics have made even good players look so bad. They have made players look worse than they actually are. For me, it's terrible, it's worrying, it's frustrating, and something has got to be done. This has given us a biting expose of how poor our manager is, to be honest. And if results continue, coming like this, and you see, I'll tell you, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had his issues, but I think at some point you would see a bit of progress in a few things that Solskjaer was doing at United. There was progress. And I hate to even say this. I love Erik Ten Hag. Last season, he gave us hope. I love what he has tried to do at the club. And I hate that I'm talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer now, but I think I have to do it. But you look at this Manchester United team and you don't see them progressing in anything consistently. We don't. There's not. Tell me one thing you will look at in this team, and you say, okay, there is hope because we are consistently improving in these areas. The boss is not improving in his decisions. His understanding of his players, I think, is work. He has failed to understand what the best positions are for which players, and it is seen. It is clearly seen. The players themselves do not look to understand what exactly the manager wants them to do. They are all over the place. They are scattered. There is no pattern. There is no clear pattern of what exactly you want to do. The press is not working at all. The decisions the boss is making. You've got Hannibal Mabry on the bench. He's an energetic young player. You know it. You're struggling against Manchester City. They are comfortable bossing possession for fun. You can't bring on this boy with his energy and pace to try and add something forward to your team, to try and maybe keep Man City at bay, worry them, and keep them in the back in a way. For me, this loss, I think, will everyone should take their portion of the blame. But I think Erik Ten Hag has got to carry this one on his head. I think at about 70%. I think it is 70% because of Erik Ten Hag that we lost, and the 30% will go to the players. But Ten Hag has proven that he has got no tactics and he has got to work on that. Forget about the referee and the decisions on the penalty, whether it was a penalty or not. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was. Well, you can't say it wasn't, but with me, we've seen players get away with this in the Premier League, and all analysts have actually said it. But that's it. Every weekend, we see such mistakes being made or such falls being made, but sometimes they're not given away. But that's not even the point. It's far from the point. The point is Erik Ten Hag is work with his tactics, and we've got to talk about it. He has got to pull up his socks if United is going to come and try to compete to finish in a reasonable place. But even the games we've won, the 3 games we've won in a row, for me, have not been convincing victories at all. The only convincing victory I've seen United this season was the game against Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup. That's the only convincing victory that United has had. And even, I think, the one against Arsenal in preseason. Nothing else. I think we played better in the 2-0 loss in preseason to Real Madrid than any game we've played, even those we've won in the Premier League or even any other league this season. So that shows you how terrible we are. There is no improvement in anything. So when we say we want to give managers time, but I mean, the managers got to do themselves some bit of favors. They've got to make it easy for us to also sit there and say, yes, he needs time. So I feel like there is a lot for us to dig in. Let me read for you something, and this is my last on Erik Ten Hag. This is a post from a one Alice Abrahams, and she's saying everything I'm saying. Ten Hag is losing the plot here. Hoyland off before Rashford. Why on earth is Rashford playing ahead? And I've spoken about that. Hoyland off before Rashford did not make sense. Everyone was booing. Amrabat off and McTominay at number 6. That did not make sense. Yes, Amrabat is struggling. He has struggled. But putting McTominay at number 6 is not a solution. You're not solving anything. Bruno still being started as a right winger. I've said it here. When Bruno is playing on the right, he's as good as not there. He is as good as not there. Signs Mason Mount to come and solve what? I asked that question. I don't know what problem Mount was solving for United. But again, you've signed him, one of your first signings, and against Man City in a big derby like this, he can't even start. So you've got McTominay and Eriksen in ahead of him. So why on earth did he rush and was ripped off by Chelsea to buy him? His substitutions are always shocking. Always shocking. You can't understand the substitutions Erik Ten Hag makes. His press obviously is not working. So even if we all want a manager to be given time and all, I think the manager has got to give reason for us to actually say you deserve time because there is hope in what you're doing. Do you see hope and progress in what Erik Ten Hag is doing with these players? For me, no. And even when the players are not taking things in their own hands, I think the fact that the boss cannot even manage them by making the right decision, saying that Bruno, you're not performing, you should be on the bench. Once Marcus Rashford, you're not performing, you should be on the bench. He can't do that. What do you expect to see? Losses like this when we are sending off our greatest footballer ever, Sabobi Charlton. Indeed, he must be turning in his grave, poor man. Anyhow, that's where we are. A bad loss, and again, we go back to square one, back to the drawing board, back to the drawing board. Hotspot, subscribe. My name is Webb. Give me your opinion about the game. I'll catch you later, fam.